checking that the sound is okay and everyone can hear me before we get started. Okay. All right, I think we are good to go. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and watch my presentation. So today we have for you, I have 3 waxes on the station. I'm going to give you an introduction to our full range, which you see on the trolley. We're also going to do some leg waxing and we're going to do some facial waxing just to show you a few different techniques that we have on offer in our waxing classes. Sorry, can you just turn your volume down so I can hear it?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have the 3 wax pots on the station, and the difference between our wax pots is that they have, first of all, 2 separate skirts for you. All right, so the key to having a great wax treatment is obviously having the right tools to do your job correctly. So let's start from the start and set up our station. So with the hard wax, any of our hard waxes, it doesn't matter. You're going to use this skirt here, click it into position, put your metal bucket inside, and then you'll actually see with our Brilliance, for example, the microwavable container is actually sitting directly inside the metal insert. With the Brilliance, which is the lovely steel coloured one here in the beads, this one goes directly inside the metal bucket. So how easy when you're topping up in between clients, just a handful of beads in the top of your wax heater, that will melt down quite quickly, provided that you don't let the wax pot go down to almost empty. The idea is to keep them nice and full in between clients so that your wax is always at a consistent temperature. That's your hard wax set up here. Brilliance, as I said, over this side, the container is also inside the metal bucket, so just pop it straight inside. The benefit of this formula is that this is actually microwavable. So all you need to do is pop this in the microwave for about 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the wattage of your microwave, directly inside the metal bucket, and it's ready to go. The only other thing you need to know is the temperature on your actual wax heater here. So with your hard wax, it should be anywhere between 3 and 4 on the temperature dial. Obviously that will differ a little bit because each pot's made a little bit differently. Your strip wax heater should be anywhere between 4 and 5 on the dial. And the difference here, as I said at the beginning, is the skirt. Okay, so this one here has the metal bar because, as we know, when we are dealing with strip wax, we need to wipe the wax completely off one side of the spatula. And if we need to lean the spatula at any time during the treatment, you can lean it like this and all your spillage goes back into the heater. With the hard wax, we deliberately remove the metal bar so that you can lift straight out of the heater and you don't have to worry about cleaning that metal bar in between clients. So the idea is to have a really clean station throughout the day. You'll also notice that my wax heater is as close to the front of the trolley as possible. All your products should be at the back, and it's also very important that you do have a trolley on wheels. As soon as the wax leaves the heater, it's drying. So if you have to carry that wax a long distance, by the time you get to the client, the wax could actually be too cold. All right. The other thing is we can have lots of cleaning tips and tricks that I can share with you. And obviously by keeping your trolley nice and close to you, you won't have any drips or spills on the floor. So less room around you that you need to clean. Okay, so that's just a few little cleaning tips and tricks as well. So now that you've set up like this, I will explain the products that you're using and the order that you're using them. Okay, so the first step is, it's very, very easy. Clean, dry area ready for waxing. So your pre-wax skin cleanser, it's the green one here. Everything's made in a handy trigger spray so that all you need to do when you get over to your client, as you'll see me doing on the legs very shortly, is just make sure it's open first of all and just spray it directly onto that area, let it absorb in, and then you're ready for waxing. Okay, with our range there's actually no need to use a pre-waxing oil. Okay, that's very important to note. If you were worried that the client had a particularly dry skin or sensitive skin, maybe clients here who are getting the eyebrows done, if you notice that they're quite sensitive or they're using any retinol products in their eye creams or anything like that, you might just need to put down a little bit of talcum powder, which we're probably familiar with, to protect the skin. Okay, other than that, clean, dry area, ready for waxing. So you've only got one option for that, which is your pre-wax skin cleanser, and then you're straight into picking up your favorite hard wax or your favorite strip wax. The next thing after you've done the treatment is you're going to be using your after waxing skin cleanser and moisturizer. This is an oil that removes all residue. Now, obviously, this is designed to work in conjunction with all of our Caronlab products. However, when I'm taking classes, pretty much every single person walks out the room with at least one of these, okay? Because this will remove any type of waxing residue. And I know that for some clients, that's a real pain when they get off the table putting back their jeans or even stockings or anything like that, and they've got little bits of wax everywhere. That really doesn't need to happen if you have the correct tool, and this will be this one here. So just to reinforce that, this will actually remove any type of waxing residue off the body, okay? Hard or strip, and other brands as well. The third and final trigger that we have is the citrus clean. Okay, so this is this one here to clean your equipment. Now, really, really easy. Again, as I said at the start, I can give you lots of tips on cleaning. If you're using a concentrated citrus clean, you should only be having to use a very small amount of light pressure here to clean the top of your pot. Maybe if you've dropped any down here, you need to clean the front of your trolley. Aside from that, really there shouldn't be a lot of elbow grease going into that cleaning stage, okay? So even here on the metal bar, I do have some strip wax just from wiping my spatula before, so I can just quickly and easily clean across the top of my metal bar here with the citrus, and it's very, very easy. This is great for the floor, and I can reassure you, you will not need to use half a bottle of this just to clean your floor at the end of the day. As I said, keep this nice and close to you anyway. There's less drips and spills already, but this is so concentrated it will get off any waxing residue off your floor. Okay, so they're the three trigger sprays there. And then the other one we have, which is one of my favorite products, is the Mango After Wax Soothing Lotion. Okay, containing witch hazel as well, so a natural astringent that is going to be great when that follicle is still open to obviously prevent any bumps, any breakouts, or any ingrown hairs. Okay, so that's the third and final option for popping on the skin. The mango is great when we go to facial waxing. So you'll see me using this one in the facial waxing today. Obviously, your oil is a little bit more important when you're doing body waxing, because when we're using strip wax, there's a lot more hidden residue. So the oil will be great for that one. Okay, so that's basically the range that I'm going to show you today. I just want to explain just a little bit more about our ingredients just before we get our first model on the bed, and then it will make a lot more sense. So the difference between the Caronlab waxes is the high quality resins that we use in the waxes. Now what that means is the resin actually makes up 75% of the finished product. So that's quite a high ingredient. So this is the one that if a client says to you, I'm allergic to the wax, then it would be 9 times out of 10 the resin that they're actually having a sensitivity or a reaction to. So just to break that down, the 3 waxes that I have on the station at the moment, Brilliance Hard Wax, Brilliance Hard Wax, and Strawberry Cream Strip Wax, these are all our highest quality synthetic resins. So what that means is if my client came in the door and said, I'm sensitive, I've had reactions to waxing before, particularly when I say reaction, I mean the red raised hive-like reaction that can get quite itchy. That one there is typically caused by a natural resin, okay? So if you already eliminate that out of the picture and just pick up a synthetic resin, then you're going to have less chance of that reaction occurring. The other wax I will show you today, just to give you an example of a natural resin so you can quickly determine what they look like, how they perform, is that I do actually have our olive oil strip wax as well to show you on the leg waxing today. So what that means is that a natural resin is typically better for leg waxing. Anywhere you're dealing with short, coarse, stubborn hairs. A lot of people might shave their legs, so you're going to want to have something like your olive oil on your station that you know in that situation of a shaver, it's going to work quite quickly for you. So we do have that option as well. The synthetic ones are obviously more designed for sensitive areas. So when we're talking about body waxing, legs, arms, chests, and backs, they are not typically sensitive areas. Our sensitive areas are facial waxing, underarm waxing, and bikini waxing. Okay, so that's where you would use a synthetic, and a natural obviously has its place in the market as well. Okay, so probably a bit more exciting than just me talking is that we will start doing a leg wax now, so you can be zoomed right in on the leg wax, and we'll show you how this all works. So just one moment while we get our model into position, please. Okay. We can do the table, we can do the okay. The close-up of the leg wax will be yeah. Okay, Rafika is our lovely model. She's going to come through. You can pop up onto the table for me, and then we're going to be just zoomed in on your legs here. Not sure what they're going to see. Yeah, you can pop up to the side. And legs down this side. Yeah, legs down here on the paper for me. Okay, just let us know on the positioning or doing anything. I'll put this up to you. And then just there you go. Lay back for me. Yep, how's that? Okay, how's that? Is that okay? Just checking that everyone can see correctly before we begin. Perfect. Okay. Positioning is over. Alright, so we're going to begin our leg wax by starting off with the pre-wax skin cleanser that I mentioned before. This does contain alcohol. This also does contain a peppermint oil. So quite refreshing when it is used in body waxing. You can just spray it right onto the body, the area to be waxed. Rubbing it in like so. As I said, it does dry really quickly, and that's all we need to do before we prepare the client for the leg wax. Okay, so we're going to showcase the two different strip waxes that I mentioned earlier. We're going to show the strawberry cream first. This is the synthetic resin. As you can see, it's called strawberry cream because it's creamy in texture. So when I'm asking you what type of wax you like, which one you may like to try in the Caronlab, my first question to you would be, do you like a cream consistency or do you like a see-through or a clear consistency? And you'll see the difference now when I put the olive right beside the strawberry, is that it goes on much more transparent and see-through. So this is a cream wax, this is a clear wax. This is a synthetic resin, this is a natural resin. The synthetic one is designed for more sensitive skin. So quite often the feedback I get when I'm waxing people in this one is you can definitely feel the difference. It hurts a little bit less. There'll be less redness typically when you're using this strip wax because it also contains an ingredient called titanium dioxide. And what titanium dioxide does is reduce that skin redness. The olive, on the other hand, would be great for that client who has shaved, who has stubborn hairs, who I feel like I just have to keep going over and over and over it to really get the result. The olive will be your more economical choice because you won't need to go over those areas as much. And like I said, if they have shaved, you're going to get better results the first time. So basically what you want to weigh up is, are you dealing with people that have more sensitive skin, or do you see people that come through your salon that have a lot more coarse hair or stubborn hair? Okay, so once you've done the front of the legs on both sides, so I'll go back to our strawberry again now. Now also the way you hold the spatula is quite important as well, because as you saw, if I angle it back like this, look how thin and even I get it. If I don't do that, and I do what I like to refer to as buttering, you'll see the difference. Holding it forwards, look how thick that is. So I'm going to go through a lot more product. Also, if you're using a cream wax like this, and it does go on very thick, you're going to use a lot more product, not just the wax itself, but you'll also go through a lot more strips. You'll notice that our strips don't actually sweat through the other side. So this is the spun lace that I'm using today, specifically designed to be used with any of our strip waxes to save you time and money, because you're not going to get that sweating through to the other side, which means I can use this strip till it's completely full of wax, and then I would throw it in the bin. So for example, today I'll be only using 3, maximum 4 of these strips for the full half leg treatment. Okay, so for both legs I'll be using that amount of strips. Okay, so just finishing off the front of the legs here, and then I will go on to the next couple of positions. You'll also notice with my technique, which is probably very different to how we're taught to do a leg wax, is that we're actually starting at the top and working away from the wax. So what that means is I get less of a sticky hand. There really shouldn't be much wax on my glove when I'm working away from the wax. What happens when we work into the wax, when we start at the ankle here and move up towards the knee, is that we're working into the wax, and that would mean that we get little flicky bits that come off, go onto the client's clothing, go all over the bed, the room. There's more things to clean. So simply by starting at the top like this, you can work away from the product, get less of a sticky hand, and probably have less cleanup to do as well. So once you've done the front of both legs, then we can just take this leg up a little bit, just bend. Yep, just bend up. Yep, that's it. Perfect, like this. Okay, and then we can go down the side here. So I don't actually ask my client at any stage to roll around on the table. Another thing that can make waxing quite uncomfortable is the positions that we are asked to get into on that waxing table. So if you just take control of your client, move the leg where you want it to be. I don't need to really strain myself. As long as I can see what I'm doing, I just lean over my client like this, working on a slight angle to not get stuck, and again, working away from the wax. Don't stress yourself out too much. If you can't get to all of these hairs down here, you'll get them when you flip your client over onto her stomach. While the leg is up, make use of that and do the knee. So while the leg is up, so I'm not asking her to bend her leg up, down, move around on the table. I'm trying to make sure that she's in as less positions as possible. When you're on the knee, what you're looking for is just always a flat surface. So as long as you always have a flat surface and you're not directly working over the kneecap like so, you won't get stuck. So always a flat surface, remembering you can move your positioning as well. So now I'm coming around to the front of her and I'm just pulling the wax out this way. Again, always a flat surface. Okay, and then we'll just do the rest of the knee, just relax. Yep. Okay, do a little bit more of the olive oil at this point. Okay, I'll move the leg this way purely for the camera. Just bend this way. Okay, just so we can see that a bit better. Normally I would have the knee up to do this, but just so you can see it a little bit more clearly. Okay, and again, maximizing positioning. While she's in this position, this is going to allow me to do the inside of the leg. Okay, so again, trying to get that as thin as possible and to obviously use as much wax that's on your spatula so that there's no waste when that goes into the rubbish. I'm still using that same strip from the beginning, believe it or not, and I have been swapping between the olive and the strawberry. As you can see, there's quite a bit of build up on my strip, but there's nothing seeping through the other side, so it's not making it difficult for me to use, and it's still absolutely picking up those hairs perfectly. Okay, so at this point, I would now call that a full strip. Okay, that is completely full, and before we throw it into the rubbish, just fold it over like so, so that when you're popping it into the bin, no one sees the last person's waxed hairs. Okay, so we'll do the same thing now. So we'll just go up for the knee, yep. Okay, so we'll do the knee first. Just doing this side of the knee. And then while I'm at this side of the knee, if I want to get a little bit more speedier now, I can do so. Just pick up a bit more wax and I can take it all the way down the outside of the leg, keeping it really nice and thin. And when I'm in this position, if I just stand behind my client like this, I can still be pulling back to really get that momentum going. And again, not getting the sticky glove because I'm still working away from the wax. Okay, that's looking really clean. So now I'll just do the top of the knee and then the inside of the leg on this side. So as you can see, both waxes are working really well in this situation. It really just comes down to personal preference. Some people like a clear wax, some people like more of a cream wax because they have had bad experiences with maybe honey waxes or natural resins before. So they will tend to go for a cream wax. Again, it's up to you what works for you. As I said, the olive, it tends to be better in situations when the hair is stubborn. Not so good on sensitive areas though. So for example, I wouldn't compromise the experience for my client by using the olive wax, which is the green one, on an underarm or a bikini line. It's really not designed for that type of area. That's when you would use, you would use the strawberry cream, if you like. Yep. That's when you would use the strawberry cream. Okay, and here's the strawberry again. But again, showing you it shouldn't be particularly thick. You should still be able to really get this one nice and thin. If it's not working like this for you, can I please suggest turn your temperature up a little bit. Make sure it looks like honey when you're looking at it in the wax heater. So therefore you'll get an even spread. You'll use a lot less product, hopefully. And the other thing is, the biggest thing we risk when we use a wax slightly cold is that's when the skin lifting can occur. So if you have everything set up at the right temperature, it's going to be easier to come off your strip. You won't have to do so much of this hard rubbing. When the wax is a little bit cold, you tend to have to really warm it up again. So that makes your job harder. If you have it at the right temperature, you can see I'm doing this with quite ease. I don't have to rub too hard to get it off. Okay, relax. Okay, so we're just going to do the back of your leg now. So I'm just going to turn you over, so you can sit right over. I'm just going to put this down flat. Okay, the table's down flat. I'm going to sit right over. Yep. That's it. Oops, sorry. That way. Yep, perfect. Yep. Yep, that's excellent. Yep, and this swaying right over. Yep, there we go. Okay. So that's the only position I'm asking the client to get into, is to flip right over onto their tummy at the end. Okay, so no asking them to roll onto their side on the bed. It's just not necessary if you know where to put your hands. Now the other thing you'll notice, can you just relax your feet down for me? Yep. The other thing you'll notice, I've asked for the feet down. Okay, this gives me a lot more control. I can cover the whole back of the leg. Okay, so just the positioning of your hand as well, just to make sure you can get right into the back of the leg here. By turning your hand this way, it will allow you to get right down the side, again, without having to move your client's leg too much. Still on my second strip, okay? And now again, just working from the top and pulling it backwards. What you're looking for is to always create a flat surface. So as long as I keep this nice and flat, I'm not on too much of a curve like this. You don't ever want to be working on a curve, okay? This is when the strip starts to do this on you. It can pull back on itself. You'll damage the skin if you're ever working on a curve like that. So always flat surfaces is rule number one. And if you keep it nice and angled like this, see how I can get into that ankle area without actually having to ask my client to do this. When she does this and she's up on her toes, it's very flimsy. Okay, so I don't have a lot of control of support. Use the table where possible. So if her leg's down like this, it's much more stable. As long as I keep that flat surface and you've got your edges of your strip free like this, I don't ever have to worry that I'm stuck or I'm going to injure the skin in any way. So it's always about keeping flat surfaces and don't wax over a crease or a curve. Okay, so angling at 90 degrees backwards allows you to get all the way down to the ankle. All the way. And as you run out, just turn your spatula down like so. This will save you a lot of time and again, a lot less wastage with your product because the wax is so much thinner than when we butter. Just to go over that buttering again, because you may recognize that you do this, buttering looks like this, okay? So look how much thicker that wax is. It's actually quite dangerous. I'm going to have a lot more that I have to remove. Okay, so now we can continue on. Again, working away from the wax and keeping the flat surface. You'll notice I'm not doing any sort of stop-start movements to come back and stretch the skin, because by working this way, if you need to stretch, if you had a bigger client, all you would do is hold your hand back here. So therefore, you don't have to come around this way and stop-start. The momentum should just keep going. So you should just be able to keep going. And it's continual movement. Again, just getting into the ankles. Now I kind of just pushed myself a little bit there, and I did actually only use 2 strips for this whole treatment. Okay, so you can see this is very full. I just want to show you what the strips can actually do. By all means, you don't have to work like this, but if you are used to using your strip over and over and you've got a good quality strip that won't sweat, then you can absolutely get it done in 2. So I even just surprised myself then because I didn't expect to get it done in 2. Now, if you came back and you saw any stray hairs, okay, try to avoid tweezing where possible. You can hopefully see this clear enough that there's not a lot of redness on the skin here. So why would I go to tweezing at this stage? If I did see any stray hairs, I would just come back and pick them up with the wax. Very, very safe that when you're using even the olive or the strawberry cream strip wax, that you can come back again for a second time to pick up any stray hairs. That is great to keep in mind for people that have shaved, okay, because you're never going to get those clean results when people have shaved the first time. If they're a regular waxer, then yes, you would hope to get all the hairs out the first time, but again, avoid tweezing where possible. Now, to finish off your treatment, what you want to do is grab your after wax. As I said, a little bit does go a long way, but particularly in the winter time, you do not want to leave anyone sticky when they've got to put their pants back on, their layers of clothing. They do not want to feel sticky and like they've still got wax on them. So what I'm actually using is the strip just to check for any little bits of residue, and then just to combat any dryness and also to make the client feel soothed, what I've actually done is just pop some mango lotion onto my glove. Okay, so at the end of the treatment, what I'm going to do is make it a treatment that she hopefully wants to remember, that she hopefully wants to come back for, because I'm showing her how thorough I am in checking for residue, and at the same time I'm just giving her a little bit of a massage. Okay, but again, I would be feeling under the ankles here. I'd be trying to feel up underneath the knee just to make sure that there's actually no stickiness left behind. And that feels really good. Okay, so that's our half leg wax with the olive and the strawberry cream. Now I want to show you our hard waxes. So we're just going to move the positioning of the camera so that we can get close up on the face so that we can show you how the hard waxes work. All right, so do you mind just flipping back over? Okay, so with our facial waxing, obviously we're dealing with makeup, we're dealing with moisturizers, lotions, all sorts of things that could be on the face. So your prepping is quite important because if you do have that clean, dry area, the wax will bond much better. Keeping in mind that our synthetic waxes, they are ultra gentle, so they are designed to grip to the hair and not so much the skin. So it means that you really need to make sure the area is completely clean and dry so that you can get the closest wax possible. So for brow waxing, I love Brazilians, okay? The Brazilian is great for coarse, short hairs. You're just picking it up on your brow beater, making sure you've got a nice ball of wax on the end of the spatula, and put it straight onto the client's skin. There shouldn't be any dragging or pulling with this product. If you find that there is, then you need to adjust your temperature. So you should just basically be able to get a nice blob of wax onto the area, and then you can start your combing and positioning the wax where you want it. It shouldn't be running all over the place. So if you have it very runny and it starts running all over the place, then your temperature is too hot. Okay, so there's a couple of things to look out for. The Brazilian will dry very fast, so there is no waiting time. And when we're doing the brow wax, just make sure you have a really nice stretch of this brow bone here, okay? And then it's just straight off. All right. The benefit of this wax is that it won't crack or go brittle on you. All right, so it always stays very, very super pliable, and that goes for any of our hard waxes. So they're very, very user-friendly. So as you can imagine, thinking about Brazilian waxing, the last thing that you want to happen is you want the wax to start snapping on you when you pull it off. And I think that's why a lot of people have shied away from hard wax. I keep meeting people and they're telling me, no, I use strip wax only. And I know the reason why, because traditionally the hard waxes on the market just weren't of a good quality. So they had to rely more on strip wax because at least the strip wax won't break or go brittle on you. But the thing is, with strip wax, it's quite harsh, particularly on a brow wax. It's designed to be very, very strong. So you can easily take that top layer of skin. At least with the hard wax, this eliminates the risk for the skin, but you're still getting out the hairs without having to worry about it snapping. Okay, so that's working really well on the brows to get all those tiny little hairs. And then I'm just going to go over it now. I might do the top with the Brilliance just to show you what Brilliance looks like. So the other end of the scale, you've got your creamy Brilliance. Same thing again, you just need a ball on the end of the spatula and you need to be able to twirl it like so. Again, just get it onto the skin and then start to work it into the area. Doesn't need to be super thick, but it does need to be even in order for you to be able to quickly lift it off the skin. Now, the other thing you can do is if you know that you're not that great at using hard wax, or you tend to do a lot of flicking and picking, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. Okay, so flicking and picking is where we don't leave ourselves an even edge, and we start doing a lot of these ones at the side of the face. That's very, very uncomfortable for the client. So what you want to make sure is you've always got an even lip on the end of that piece of wax. Your two fingers are in position stretching. Remove this one off, and then come right over to the other side. You can actually use the shiny side of this wax, the one that doesn't have any hairs attached to it. Bond that to the last piece of wax, and that will become your instant lip. Okay, so again, you don't need to use your finger to be pulling the wax up. Use the last piece of wax and then just remove. Okay, so really, really delicate, really nice on the face, really great at getting out those stubborn hairs. Okay, and then if you need to come back again, as I said, these waxes are really safe to use over the top of themselves. So if you didn't get things clean the first time, you would come back again. Okay, it can be used more than once. You'll actually find with any of the synthetic hard waxes, the first time you're actually just warming up the skin. So when you come back that second time, the skin should already be warm now. So the temperature of the wax should by all means not be feeling hot. But what that means is that you're going to get a better result. So you're actually going to pull out more hairs than you did that first time. All right, so really stretching off that eye. As you can see, the difference in the stretch makes all the difference for the client's pain factor. Okay, and then just removing. All right, and we're still getting quite a few dark hairs coming off there. All right, now some of these are quite short on the brow. I'm just going to see if I can get them by coming back again with the Brazilian. So this is 3 times now. You won't always need to do this 3 times, but what I'm actually doing for stubborn hairs in this case is actually going against the growth. So this is a little bit of a trick you can use for brow waxing. You can go against the growth, just making sure I do have a nice lip there. You can go against the growth for any short hairs. So think about this for your underarm waxing. Think about this for your Brazilian waxing. If the client had ever shaved or they had really short stubborn hairs, what you can do with your hard wax is actually comb against the growth like this. And then you would, in the same fashion, remove against the growth to really get out any of those stubborn hairs. Okay, and then at the end of the treatment, as I said, with facial waxing, we don't actually need a lot of oil because there really shouldn't be a lot of residue left behind. So at the end of your facial waxing, just use your mango lotion, just a tiny little bit on the glove, and this will just soothe and calm the skin down. It will remove some residue, not as much as what the oil would obviously remove, but as I said, with hard wax, there shouldn't be as much residue. Okay, and there's your brow wax. Okay, should we show a lip as well? Okay. All right, so with your lip waxing, what you want to do is again pick up a decent amount of wax on your spatula. And lip hair, as we know, is really quite stubborn. So what you want to do is drop it in the corner and roll up the face. So again, you're going against the growth here. If you go against the growth anytime you're dealing with stubborn hair, and when I say stubborn, that doesn't always mean coarse hair, that can mean fine hair, because as we know, fine hair on the face is very stubborn. So in this situation with the lip hair, I've gone up against them, letting that dry. Stretch down the face like so, lift up your lip, and then straight off. Okay? Keeping that last piece, because as I said earlier, we do not want to flick and pick at the client's face. So now when I come back this side, I want to roll up the face like this, really trapping those hair, really making sure I work that wax into the corner of her mouth. That's where the stubborn hairs are going to be. And shiny side to shiny side, attaching that as my lip so I don't have to pick it up. Press on the wax just to make sure it has adhered to all the hairs and it's dry and it's not gummy. Obviously, if you touch it and your glove is sticking to it, it's not ready to use because it's still gummy. Okay, stretch down and remove. Okay, that one worked excellently to remove pretty much everything the first time. Now to get to the middle, which can be a little bit awkward sometimes, your client tends to want to stretch their face down. My client looks very relaxed. I don't want to disturb that. So I can just go straight in like this, not asking her to hold her top lip down or anything like that. It's not needed. Really, I should be doing the work. So all I need to do is just, with my thumb, I can create a nice tight surface like this. All right, so just rolling across that middle, not obviously hitting her nose or anything like that. Give it a little bit of time to dry again. So just pressing to make sure it has dried. You're just looking for it to go like a plasticine consistency. You're not looking for it to be rock hard. So I basically don't want to leave my client now, go and answer the phone, book in a few more clients, and then come back and remove the hard wax. Even though this wax will not go brittle, I don't want it to set super hard because that's when you run the risk of snapping hairs. And if you're snapping hairs, you're not removing them completely from the follicle, and it's basically going to be like shaving for your client. So they won't get as long between their treatments. All right, so if you can just let it dry and remove it straight away, you'll get a much better result for your client. Now repeat the process. We are using hard wax, so we want to get this like a strip wax finish but without the harshness on the skin. So that means we do it twice. You're still combing these hairs against the growth, but what you're going to do differently this time to catch any that you may have missed, and again, just seeing how quickly that dries, if you keep it nice and thin, you're going to pull from the opposite way. So stretch the skin over this side this time, get your lip up, making sure it's all attached. Okay, now you can see what's happening. The wax is pulling a little bit here, which means my lip is not completely attached. Now this is something that's really quite common that happens, and this is when we just keep pulling for dear life, okay? Instead of panicking and keep pulling, just stop for a moment. Just readjust your wax, mold it into itself, and then you'll get everything in one go. So if you do that, there's less cleanup at the end and less discomfort for your client. Okay, now second time around, that has picked up all the tiny, really fine hairs, okay, the really vellus hairs. So I'm going to do the same on the other side now. So it's a set process with the lip wax. You do it one way and then you do it the other way with your pull. So this time, again, I'm going to be pulling from the nose down. I've combed the hairs up this way, so I'm hoping that they're all trapped in the wax. And by pulling the opposite way to what I first did, we hope that we're going to get all the tiny hairs that didn't come out first time. All right, so again, really doesn't take long to dry, so you can just be doing one side at a time and then remove. Okay, straight back down. Lastly, as I said, we will do everything twice in the opposite direction. So don't forget about the middle again. We've only done that once. So coming back, doing the middle again, and then you should have the cleanest result possible. This time I've done it a little bit thicker, which is not a problem. If you are practicing your skills with hard wax, you will be using it a little bit thicker because you'll be overcompensating for the fact that you're probably used to a hard wax that goes brittle. Now, it just takes a little bit longer to dry if you do it thicker. It's not a problem, but it just means don't go in straight away because it will stick to your glove. So just give it a moment longer if you have done it a bit thicker, and there's nothing wrong with doing it a bit thicker. As long as it's not tearing off, you're not leaving lots of little bits of hard wax residue on the client, then you know everything has gone pretty much perfect. And again, with the lip, you're just finishing off with a tiny little bit of your mango lotion. All right, shouldn't be seeing too much redness. If I was worried that my client was going to go a little bit sensitive, or she's told me that she's experienced breakouts before, the Brilliance Hard Wax is the one that I would pick up, because this is the one that's designed for the most sensitive skin, the Brilliance Hard Wax. So it has the highest quality resin, and it also has the titanium to reduce the redness. The Brazilian, which is the one that I use today, the beaded wax, this one here is great for coarse hairs. It's great for speed waxing because you can use it really nice and thin. As you saw, it dries straight away. So you can be pulling it off straight away and really do the treatment quite quickly. So both have their place on your trolley, just depending on what sort of clientele you're dealing with and what you're used to working with. As you saw with the Brazilian, it goes on clear. As you would have seen with the Brilliance, it goes on creamy. All right, so again, it depends what you're used to, cream or clear waxes, and what sort of clientele you have. But still, there's absolutely no redness here with the Brazilian, so it's still been a great choice for a sensitive skin anyway. Okay, so we'll just go over a little bit of cleaning now. Yeah, okay, so you can come back to here, and we're going to be looking at the trolley again. So thank you very much. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, so as we said at the start, okay. As I said at the start, if you do set up your station quite cleverly so that you can work smarter and not harder throughout the day, the only thing I really need to do now to clean my station is to just get rid of any little drips or spills that the wax has caused when I've been using them. So onto the strip, bit of the citrus clean, and shouldn't have to use too much elbow grease to get this to happen. Just quickly clean around the top of the wax heaters. So this would be literally as my client is standing up, as she's doing right now, and getting dressed. I would just be quickly doing this with my back turned to her while she gets dressed. And then I can walk her to the front at the same time, because aside from that, that's really all the cleaning that I've had to do in this situation. I'll just double check here. Okay, so my pots are clean. The next thing I need to do, which I said at the beginning of the session, is that you should keep your pot nice and full. So having your bag of Brazilian on your second shelf on your trolley. I've now done a few waxing treatments. Just do a few beads. Try and keep them to one side of the heater if you can, because if you close over this whole gap, the problem that you'll have is that when your next client comes in the room, is that it won't all be melted down. So if you just keep your top up to one side, then I've still got working wax over this side. So then I'm still ready to go, even if I had a client coming in right now, which really we should be booking our clients back to back because there's not a lot of cleaning time needed. I just need to make sure the waxes are nice and full, and then I'm ready to go. All right, so Brazilian will be ready to go. Brilliance, this is microwavable, remember? So if this was quite low now, what I would do is take this to the microwave for 2 to 3 minutes, get it nice and runny, and then I don't need to swap over my pots or anything. Just pour some more wax into the top, and then you're ready for your next client as well. Strip wax will work the exact same way. The strip wax you'll need to take to the microwave, melt it down for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then pour that one into the top as well. So the beads are really, really handy because I actually don't have to leave my trolley or the room to top up. I can just do that by having them on the second shelf. So really easy. Okay, now did we have any questions from any of our viewers today? Just checking if anyone's written in any questions to us. Doesn't look like it. Seems like we've covered everything. Cool. All right, so it looks like there's no questions. So I think that's the end of our session. Great.
No, wait, hold on. Shannon's typing something.
Okay, we have a question. It's a long question.
If I live in a climate that is more humid, do I need to adjust the setting on my pots?
Okay, good question. So, if you're dealing with humidity, obviously when we're dealing with waxes, there is going to be a little bit that's going to change depending on the climate of the room. If you're living somewhere that's humid, probably the biggest challenge I've ever come up against in a humid environment is if the air, so the air conditioning or the fan, is blowing directly on the wax pots. Now that seems really simple, but sometimes you come into a room and the air conditioning unit might be here. The wax pots might be here. That will actually change the temperature of your wax because, as I said at the beginning, as soon as they leave the wax pot, this is all drying time. So if I had air blowing right on top of these, that will change the treatment dramatically because by the time I got the wax to the client's skin, it could definitely be too cold. Just to reinforce the danger of wax that is too cold, that's when the skin lifting can occur. And how that occurs is because if you go in too cold the first time, you take it off the brows and you think, oh, that only removed that 3 or 4 hairs, I'm going to have to do it again, which is fine, but then you'll find you're doing it again and again. And then that's when you can change the skin a little bit. So you don't want to have to be going over the areas multiple times. So yes, if you're in a humid environment, the first thing is air conditioning fan. Think about the positioning and don't have your wax pots right beside that. The air can be blowing directly onto the client to keep them nice and cool, because obviously in a humid condition, they might be coming in already hot, already sweaty. That's going to make your life very hard. In that situation, you need to have cornstarch is my recommendation over talcum powder. Okay, the cornstarch is nicer to use, and you'll need to put a little bit of cornstarch down to make sure there's no visible moisture on the client. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question for you.
We have another question.
Yes.
What is the best wax for Brazilian waxing and why?
Okay, the best wax for Brazilian waxing, obviously dealing with the most sensitive part of the body, the 4-week treatment that no one really looks forward to, okay? Just by simply changing your wax to Brilliance Hard Wax, this one here is recommended for Brazilian waxing. This is the wax that put Brazilian waxing back on the map because the Brilliance, and I can just do a little bit of a demo on my hand here just to give it a little bit of an example. If you're using the Brilliance in the Brazilian area, obviously we're doing slightly larger sections than say what we've just done on the lip and eyebrow today. The benefit of this wax, and you'll see in a moment when it's dry, it molds around the area. So what that means, it won't grip to anything that it shouldn't. So if you happen to go very close in on the Brazilian, which we want to, right? Because we want to remove all the hairs. But if we got too close in or we dropped the wax somewhere it shouldn't be, what's going to happen when you remove this, it's moldable. So what it would do is if it ever hit the wrong area, it would just mold around and it releases. As I was saying when we were doing the facial waxing, these waxes are not designed to grip to the skin. They're designed first and foremost to grip to the hairs. So by doing that, they're moldable. So they will just mold around the area. So quite often when people are waxed in this wax on the Brazilian area, the words that come out of their mouth are, I can feel the difference. It doesn't hurt as much. And that's because of that synthetic resin and the way that the wax is designed to be pliable and mold around. It makes a very, very comfortable Brazilian treatment.
Another question. How is Caronlab different from Serapil or Epilis?
Okay. Yeah, good question. So obviously there's many, many different brands on the market. There's so many different waxes always coming out that we always have to sort of think about what's in our wax pot a little bit. So what were the brands? Sorry, it was Beridan.
Serapil and Epilis.
Sorry, Serapil and Epilis. Okay, so the thing that makes us different is talking about those high quality synthetic resins again, okay? So we always have the highest quality synthetic resins in our product. And if you were using a Serapil or an Epilis, and I'm talking hard wax for you, the closest thing you would find would be our Brazilian, okay? So we have designed this to basically perform as close to those competitors as we can, making your transition quite easy, but keeping in mind our synthetic resins are always at this level at a very, very high quality. So when you buy this product today, it will work for you the same if you bought it next month. Sometimes with other brands, they do have resin shortages. That does happen throughout the world everywhere. So sometimes if you're ever noticing that with your products that you're currently using, it worked great in winter, but in summer perhaps it wasn't working as great. So don't always blame that on the weather. Have a look at your ingredients, have a look at what is being used in your waxes. Ask questions to your manufacturers. Is it synthetic? Is it natural? What type of resin is it? Okay, the difference with Caronlab is that our waxes are all manufactured in Australia, so we actually manufacture them, we can train you how to use them, and we sell them as well. So we do know exactly what is going into the pot, and I think that does set us apart from some of the other companies that don't always have control over their manufacturing. Okay. Yeah, was there any more questions? So great questions so far. Yeah, okay, great. All right. Well, thank you everyone. Hopefully you've learned something from the webinar today and hope to see you soon.